Nice meeting you. Who'd you like to thank?
Definitely thank you to everyone who was cheering me on and everyone who came to stop by the pits to keep us going on that tour. So, thank you.
Sometimes I start to get filled with doubt. I doubt that I can continue putting effort into the things I do. I doubt that I can even accomplish anything further in this life. And I start thinking that even if I did, nobody would care and none of it would matter anyway. Then, when it gets as bad as it can get, instead of just slumping over and giving up, I start thinking, well, cool, if it all doesn't matter anyway, and my dumb ass doesn't care about staying alive, then that just really means I'm completely free to do whatever I want, even if it means I'll die trying. And that's when shit like this happens, racing a DR200 in a 24-hour endurance race. Solo. So there I was 5 days before this race, in a mood where I didn't even want to get out of bed anymore. Most of the crew that was supposed to come with me had dropped out, and there was the potential that it was just going to be myself and one other person trying to accomplish this whole thing. Doing the race, filming it, posting on social media, updates as we go, all the pit duties, making food, all that stuff. And I was pretty sure that if it turned out that way, I wasn't going to be able to make any type of decent video. But I was already signed up for this thing, and I already told everyone I was going to do it. So we finished up the bike build, and I kind of figured, okay, worst case scenario, I'm just gonna go out there and have a nice 24-hour ride. Might not make an awesome video out of it, but at least I can go and get the experience. Plus, it wasn't gonna be all bad because I had been working on my fitness like extremely hard, and I knew I had reached a really good level of fitness, and I also knew that I had made this bike really capable, and I was very eager to go out there and see where that would land me. Even if I couldn't make a video out of it, there were still things that could be accomplished out there. But then the governor of California said, nah, you all need to stay home and there's a 10 p.m. curfew. And that kind of rule doesn't really mesh well with a 24-hour big endurance race. So everyone that I keep in contact with was like, is this thing still happening or what? And I didn't know really if I should leave just to get turned around or not. But I ended up going anyway because I was going to go down there and I was going to have some sort of riding trip no matter what happened. But when I got to Glen Helen, it turns out that 100% of the people who go to these endurance races also feel the way that I feel, because everyone was there that would normally be there, and it was a great turnout for the event. So the race was on.
A skid plate because, as we've seen in the past, if you rub slightly too wrong on one of these oil drain plugs, it will come loose. And I totally planned on making like a legit skid plate, but never did. So.
So this is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Custom skid plate before the race.
Good luck. Thanks. It hasn't even hit me that it's going to be 24 hours.
So at the starting line, I ended up needing a helper because the start format was to start off your bike, run towards it, get on, start it, and go. I did end up with 3 helpers with me at that race for my crew, but they all had something to do. So I had someone who was recording the start on the big camera. One person was doing the social media updates on Instagram. We were posting stories throughout the race, which if you missed out on, I'm totally sorry. Definitely follow the Instagram because it was like a big hit on Instagram actually. We needed to like prepare food and get the pit set up. So I ended up getting help from a great guy named Brett from the number 88 team. And we ended up pulling a totally decent start. So with all that power blasting out of that DR200, plus 1 Brett power propelling me forward, that had to be like at least 1 horsepower right there. We ended up actually getting like a totally decent mid-pack start, 5th position into the first turn. That didn't last very long because as soon as we started climbing into the hills, we had a major problem on this bike. that DR200 was barely making the hills. And that was on these fresh, groomed, super smooth hills. I was like, holy crap. Once these hills start getting torn up, this is going to become quite impossible. So even on those fresh hills, I was dropping back to last place, like dead last on every single hill because I was having to drop down to first gear. So due to that, I knew immediately I absolutely had my work cut out for me for that race. If I was gonna be competitive in lap times, I was gonna have to actually be decently quick in the other parts of the course because I was losing a ton of time on every hill. Fortunately, I was able to go quick enough through the rest of the course that by the end of the lap, I was pretty much like somewhere back where I started the lap. So it kind of was evening out. So by the end of the first lap, I rolled through the pits in 6th out of 8. And I was totally stoked on that because that meant I'd really only lost like 1 position. Yes, technically I had gone all the way to the back and then had to go catch all the way back up, which is super solid on a DR200. Like that is all I can ask for on a DR200. So after a few laps had gone by, even though I wasn't falling back in position and my lap times were pretty dang decent, I was still losing out to the front runners by at least a minute or so, a minute or a couple minutes, depending on the lap, every lap. So the people ahead were getting a pretty large gap that looked pretty comfortable. But again, this is a super long race, so I wasn't getting discouraged at all. I was just gonna stick to the plan, which was to just keep turning out those solid laps. I just kept saying, it's nice that everyone's faster than me, but I ain't stopping. So we'll see how that turns out. So I was just gonna run the best pace that felt solid and sustainable to me. I wasn't gonna be out there getting into any unnecessary bar-to-bar action. I wasn't gonna do anything that would spike my adrenaline or redline my heart rate because that stuff wears you out. And I was just going to try to not break that bike. I was going to force myself to race in the most conservative fashion that I possibly could. It actually took several hours until I had a solid hold on 6th position where I wasn't getting passed back to the back on every lap. But as soon as I was actually holding 6th position, I was caught up to 5th and I got into 5th. I kid you not, as soon as I grabbed 5th place, I managed to clip the rear wheel on this jagged rock that was just sticking out of the side of the trench like a knife. And it turned out that doing that had put a slice through the tire, making it flat. I made a pit stop because it was about time for a stop anyway. The bike needed fuel, oil, an air filter. I needed an Uncrustable, and we needed to take a look at that tire and see if it was something that was going to stop the show or not.
That is Iron Man. How you doing, bud? Yeah, feeling good? Right on. Crushing it, dude.
Yeah.
You're doing good. Keep it up. Appreciate it, guys. How are the paper towels for the brakes?
Front brake doesn't work at all.
Damn it.
But it was a good effort. What's wrong with it? Just covered in oil.
It's got a crack.
Oh, it's fucked?
It's got a crack. I mean, it's...
24-hour snack includes Uncrustables and glycerol. And
We got the aloe juice.
oh, and aloe juice. And we're back at it with a possibly cracked tire.
I think it's definitely cracked tire.
It definitely cracked tire.
It was actually super awesome every time I would stop in the pits because we would get help from our neighbors. Like people would just come rushing over and start helping us. So on that pit stop where it was an everything pit stop, fuel, oil, air filter, eat, refill water, take a piss, and then look at some damage, That was an everything pit stop, and we got that done in 5 minutes. Somehow that brutal DR200 power wasn't throwing that tire off in pieces or anything, so we just ran it, just decided we would keep an eye on it. A little while after that, maybe just a couple laps after that, I remember coming into the pits and saw that we were already 6 hours in. Normally, I am toast after 6 hours. The whole like just racing conservatively thing was totally paying off because I still felt fresh. Then by the time the sun had set, the gaps ahead of me stopped growing and I slid into 4th position. But just as the last bit of light was fading, just as it was getting dark enough to where you needed a headlight, my headlight broke. The bulb had broken out of the headlight housing and then it was just flapping around. But I suppose maybe it was perfect timing, because if it held on like a lap more and then it broke when it was completely dark, I'd have been screwed. I literally would have needed an escort to bring me back to the pits. So when I got back to the pits, the crew let me know that I was really close behind 3rd place. So it was just a mad dash to fix that headlight. So we broke out the zip ties and the duct tape and just went ham, creating just like a rat's nest holding that thing in place. And it worked, and we got back out there. So obviously I had lost a few minutes having to make that headlight repair, but that still only put me like 15 minutes behind 3rd place. And in this type of race, 15 minutes behind, you might as well be right on their tail. So I started just cranking out laps again, hoping to shrink that back down, and it was so frustrating what happened next. I was out there and the bike just started to cut out a little bit. It kind of just felt like a clogged air filter, like off the bottom it would kind of miss and then it would get going. Through the course of that lap, that turned from that small issue into the bike barely running. Towards the end of that lap, it was just da-da-da-da-da, just trying to die. And I was super pissed. If I didn't finish that race, that would be a huge disappointment, first of all. If I burned out that bike, that would be 3 bikes burned out in 3 consecutive races. And at that point, I would probably be pissed and just stop. No, okay, maybe I wouldn't have like just gotten pissed and stopped. I would have been pissed, but somehow I would have not stopped. Somehow the bike got me back to the pits, just barely running. I remember I didn't even have to hit the kill switch when I got into the pits because it just stopped. I was informed that I was very close to 3rd place and only 6 minutes behind 2nd place. So hearing that, I was just losing my mind. We're actually making gains in position in this race, and the bike is taking a crap on me. Like, I could not believe it. So we had no clue what was wrong with the bike, but we just kind of like looked it over and then threw a new fresh air filter at it, and that didn't do anything. Eventually, it took a while, but eventually we were able to find a ignition wire that was hanging on by like a couple strands of copper. That was probably the problem, and we just needed to repair that. So fortunately, one of the guys there, Josiah, he was actually out on the course filming with the big camera. He had a trailer full of stuff, and we were like, maybe he has some stuff to repair this. Like, all we need is a simple crimp connector. So we kind of went tearing through his trailer while he wasn't there, and we found a crimp connector in there, and then we like fixed the bike. It took a while, so we lost at least 10 minutes, but probably like 20 minutes to get back up and running. When that thing was running again, I don't think I've ever felt more motivated in my life. Before this race even started, I think it was like 2 weeks before, I posted on Instagram and asked everyone to give me their submissions for a playlist that I was going to put together, and like in my time of need at this race, I was going to play the playlist, and that would help me like just keep charging. So as the bike was getting repaired, I started shoving in the earbuds, and we got the my phone situated in my backpack, and we put that playlist on, and oh my gosh, I was ready to just kill. I was just ready to destroy everything in front of me. And it wasn't just the fact that it was like music, it was the fact that like everyone had contributed to this, and it was just like a big reminder that I was only there because hundreds of people wanted me to be there. That bike wouldn't have been built if it weren't for all these people. The playlist wouldn't have been playing if it weren't for all these people. All the motivation all at once. Extremely happy to just have the bike running. Extremely happy to just be there and have all that support and be set up so well by everyone who wanted me to do well. And I was just like, I'm gonna go crush this. I feel like I went straight back to just about the same pace that I started with. It probably just felt that way. While I was cranking out those laps, I was pretty much in a flow state, so it kind of all just flew by. I do remember at one point looking at my watch and saying like, holy crap, we are 10 hours into the race and I'm still charging. And when I saw that we were 10 hours into the race and I still felt good, I was just mind blown. Because the last time that I raced for 10 hours straight, I was so dead. I was sick. I could not move. I was having trouble breathing. And I pretty much stayed that way for 30 days straight until I finally started to recover. And then here I am, 10 hours in, still like, yeah, I'm cruising. I'm gonna go get this. I was just so happy with that. And then at some point in the middle of that night, I remember coming into the pits, the people who were sitting there at the scoring line were just like, heck yeah! People were just cheering me like extra hard this time. And then I came around to our pit and the crew signaled to me that I was now in second place.
Second place!
There is no greater feeling. I kid you not. I was drinking water, and when I saw they're holding up two fingers, I was like, just like spat water everywhere and like shouted like, yeah! I was so happy. Before that, yeah, I could tell that my body was like pretty well used. When I saw that I was in second place, all of a sudden I was back to extremely fresh, and I don't know if I can ever replicate it. I'm worried that I could never replicate this. Starting at the bottom and slowly working my way up, like that keeps you going. And then having these setbacks and being able to fight through them and like catch back up to where I was, plus some. All those things, like they just added up to this moment of being in second place and just realizing like, this is incredible. I don't know if that will ever be replicated in my racing ever again. So after getting into second place, again, just went straight back to turning laps, and I was feeling so good. I was like, heck yeah, this is awesome. Just gonna be happy and turn laps, and it's all gonna turn out just great. And that was how it was for a few more hours. And then I came around through the pits, and the crew out of nowhere signaled to me that I was in first place.
Got some help.
Keep chugging. You're at the halfway mark, a little over 12 hours in.
Alright.
Alright, keep going.
First place.
Hey, thanks for the help, man.
Yeah, no worries.
First place and a lap lead.
Just don't worry, but just keep your pace.
Dinner of Champions included beef tacos. We're getting ready to begin again.
I was absolutely not mentally prepared to be leading that race. I only have one race win to my name, and during that one, I actually had no clue that I had made the pass for first. I have never known myself to be in first place before. Now all of a sudden I'm in first place and I'm the guy to beat. That was very discomforting. It completely shattered that flow state. That built up motivation flow state that I was just cruising through this race with, completely shattered. All of a sudden I was worried about every little thing, because all of a sudden, like, this was for real. Every little strange noise I would hear, I'd be like, what's that? Gotta check it, gotta stop, gotta put the flashlight on it, gotta check it, see what's going on here. So I didn't hold first place for very long, because basically as soon as I was in first place, my freaking brain broke and I started going way slower. After a couple laps, I got passed back. And then when I got passed back, it was like, all of a sudden, like, I'm in a battle. So I better, like, you know, kind of give it some extra. And that was just not the way to go. The strategy I had in the beginning of just chill and put in solid laps and give no cares about what everyone else is doing, that was the race winning strategy right there. Getting into a battle and worrying and stressing is not the race winning strategy. I am 100% sure on that right now. Anyway, I get back into second place and basically like battle it out for a while. And eventually I reach back up to first place. And I'm in first place again. I was just falling apart because I stressed myself too hard, and I got back to second place again. At a certain point, I was out there and hit a physical and mental wall. I was going through the course and I had 3 crashes in one lap. Not only did I have 3 crashes in one lap, but multiple times during that lap, I forgot where I was. It was like I suddenly came back to reality and was like, where am I? What am I doing? And then I would see a course marker or another bike and it would remind me, oh yeah, we're at Glen Helen and I just need to keep going, keep racing. Yeah, I crashed 3 times that lap and all 3 of them were unpleasant, but one of them was very bad. So I was going up one of the big hills, probably the longest hill on that course. I didn't make the hill, and I ended up rolling backwards, crashing super hard as I rolled backwards, and I ended up tumbling down the hill, and when I stood up, my ankle was just jacked. I remember looking at my watch at that moment, like just as I was trying to get back up and get back going again, and it was 17 hours into the race. At that point, I was like, this is not good. If I try to do another lap like this, I'm just gonna have more of these issues. Like, I'm gonna keep forgetting where I am. I'm gonna keep crashing. This just ain't good. And the more I do that, the more mistakes just pile up on me, the bigger and greater the risk gets of not finishing. I was like, you know, I'm in second place. I should probably just like pit stop right now and try to get myself situated so that I can finish this out. I pulled into the pits and the crew was asleep, grabbed a bunch of food. I sat down, started throwing it into my mouth. And the next thing that I remember was waking up. And I remember waking up and just being like, oh shit, and looking at my watch, and I had been asleep for an hour and I was freezing. So I stand up because I'm just gonna get a jacket on and get back going again. And everything was just completely stiff and painful. So right there, that is how you lose an endurance race, by falling asleep in the middle of it. Because when you wake up, everything sucks. But I did just that. I got a jacket on and I just got on the bike and just kept going. And I kept going and going, and every lap was a struggle, but I was just concentrated on being careful, not trying to maintain a solid pace anymore, just be careful. Like, the main objective was just be careful and keep that thing moving. I kept doing that until the most beautiful sight ever, the sun starting to come up. So the race is mostly at night. So when you see that sun starting to come up, it's like, Oh my gosh, thank goodness. So by the time the sun was coming up, the crew was back awake, and they notified me that first place had like a good gap on me. Yeah, falling asleep for an hour resulted in obviously over an hour gap. But they told me like, you're basically all good because while you were battling for first, you guys basically pulled like a huge gap on everyone else. So I was like sitting solid in second. I was gonna be okay and get second as long as we got that thing over the finish line when the checkered flag came out. So that's what I did. I literally settled for second place because every lap was a huge risk. And I was like, second place on a DR200, like, that's all right. I think we can be okay with that. Plus, the rear tire was finally starting to come apart, and we didn't want to like start changing it and have some sort of mishap, because, I mean, I know how tire changes go. When there's no pressure, it's like no big deal. But then when the pressure's on and it like actually counts, you definitely 100% of the time like screw up the tire change. So I was like, we have this tire and it's on the rim. Let's just try to finish out with that. But it was coming apart a little, but we were in a position where we were able to just do careful laps. Like the only time I would really gun it was to get up those hills, because that was the only time I needed to.
You're looking great.
You're holding,
Good second. Yeah.
you're holding second.
Okay, then I'm gonna chill for like, yeah, you should take a break for a while.
Doing good. Have a comfortable lead for second place, maintaining second place, and just pumping up the tires and getting some gas and resting. And currently pancake breakfast for the champ.
I'm not the champ though.
Second place on a DR200. Pretty fantastic.
Second place on a DR200. You're the champ.
Yep.
Hell yeah!
So currently taking a rest for a while because the current condition of the back tire is that there are multiple cracks throughout the entire thing.
And when it was finally time to do the last lap, I got escorted around the course by the number 127 team, who had been out there like cheering me on and trying to keep me going the whole race. And that was like probably very necessary, because at any point during that last lap I could have like tipped over and been like, ugh, we're done, can't get back up. Probably good thing to have. But yeah, he rolled me through the last lap and through the checkered flag. It's in my, it's somewhere in one of those pouches.
We knew there was a story. Come on, you're like, that's awesome. You'll get in there drinking. Thanks for the help. Of course,
You were like crazy out there. Did everybody see the Suzuki out there all night long? Yeah. That was him right there. Yeah.
Turn that thing around, and you didn't have to do so many laps, but you didn't give up, did you?
Yeah, I wanted to try to keep going for the whole 24 hours, but I couldn't. But I did my best.
Not very many people can do that, but you did incredibly well. Second place, we're leading it there for a little bit, and for how many laps?
Probably like 2 or 3 laps.
Nice. But congratulations, man. Gabriel, nice meeting you. Who'd you like to thank?
Definitely thank you to everyone who was cheering me on and everyone who came to stop by the pits to keep us going on that tour. So thank you.
Give it a class. Second place here today in our event.
So getting second place on a DR200, like, I suppose that's an accomplishment. Like, yeah, second place, that's cute. But the real victory here, where, like, I claim victory, was the award that we received. So they gave us this custom designed award thing that had pictures of myself on the DR200 throughout the course. And in those pictures, you can see a few of the spots where fans had purchased their sponsor space to put whatever silly stuff they wanted on the bike in sticker form, such as the Facebook like finger thing on my front number plate, and the born to shit forced to wipe meme on my gas tank. And that I feel super good about, because people purchased those sponsor spots and I did not let them down. I got those sponsors pictured on the award, which is exactly the point. And they are the silliest, like, it is just, it's perfection. So in the future, when I'm doing another fan-funded bike build, those sponsored sticker spots are like ridiculously underpriced, and I hope more people will take advantage of it. Who knows? Who knows what kind of trophy for what kind of event you could have your stupid meme on.